Hey everybody, welcome to the PredictIt podcast. I'm Jacob Studwell, here with Garth. We're going to do all things Michigan, polling roundup, just kind of get our bearings. It's moving week for me, so you might pardon my appearance on the background. Pardon Garth's injury, but you should see the bear because it doesn't look good. But
Exactly.
yeah. So you sent me over this little blurb about the GOP revolt, a mutiny, you
Yes.
might
A
say.
mutiny. Yes.
What got them to revolt? I mean, it must have been, I don't know, threatening to lower taxes or uh,
Something of a policy issue. No, it's not a
yeah, it
policy
must
issue.
be, right?
No, it's encroaching on their summer recess.
Hey,
Classic.
this is the most important thing. If you're a senator, okay,
I
we
mean,
talk about it all the time.
I get it to some degree. I mean, they obviously want to see their constituents, and that's what they say
Right, right.
they're like, you're going to cut down on our constituent time, and we need to be there. Well, you also need to be in the Senate doing your job, in my humble opinion. And I think the president thinks the same, but his motives are a little different than actually passing legislation that will help people. Just
Well,
going to say that, put that out
yeah,
there.
he's looking to deliver the Save Act, and I think it's been
He
very
is.
clear that the filibuster doesn't have the votes to flip flop,
Go.
and Save Act doesn't have the votes to pass. And
And it doesn't even have the Republican votes. So let's just keep ramming it in there.
I mean, it's fun to talk about policy that will never get passed.
Right.
It's a good choice.
It
And if
is.
we go through the polling roundup, pretty bad round of polling for Donald Trump and for the Republican Party. Usually, when
Hmm.
we see the favorability polls for the Republican Party and for the Democratic Party, it's usually like, oh, Republicans 15 points underwater, Democrats 20 points underwater, right? It's
Yep.
usually like dislike for the Republican Party, even more dislike for the Democratic Party. And this time around, very different batch of polling from the argument Vericite. We've got general ballot Dems up 8 points. So that's securely giving the Dems a win there. I think the average is right now at like 6 points. So definitely moving up that average a bit. Then we have Republican Party favorability plus 19 unfavorable. And then if you look at the Democratic Party, it's plus 11. So this isn't one of those where Republicans have plus 19, Democrats have plus 22. That's a
Right.
big gap. That is the same gap as the generic ballot right there. So not great for Republican Party, who again is stuck talking about Iran, stuck talking about the Save Act that they're not going to pass. I'm curious if reconciliation is going to get meaningfully across the finish line, but they're all at home, right?
Well, right, exactly. And what does it all set up? It sets up a government shutdown a month before the election. And, what could be worse but the fifth government shutdown in the Trump era, um, a month before voters go to the polls physically, or as weeks before voters send in their mail-in ballots.
Right.
I mean, yikes. I mean, there's nothing that the Trump administration is doing right now that is going to motivate the base. But I say that, and I will segue to the Democratic Socialist on Fox
Hmm.
News coming out and saying everything that could be really, really bad for the Democrats. Let's abolish the Senate, prisons, free for all.
Who,
And that
who who did we get on Fox?
it was Megan. Give me a second to find it.
Megan.
Uh,
Interesting.
Megan, where is it? Hold
Don't
on.
think of Megan as
DSA,
a DSA name, huh?
meaning DSA Fox News.
Well, that riles
Uh,
up the base.
yeah, Megan Romer, DSA co-chair.
DSA
Now,
co-chair. Wow, they got the
yes,
DSA co-chair on
they
Fox
got
News. That's
the top
pretty
top
impressive.
billing right there, and she went on there in a lightning round and decided to say a whole bunch of things that make most Democrats cringe. Um,
Yeah. It's honestly pretty impressive that Fox like got all of those things lined up very beautifully. You know what? The theme of today definitely will be the DSA and how a democratic socialist may fare in the Midwest because
Yeah,
we have Michigan next week. We also have Wisconsin. We have a Democratic primary that, again, more really incredible polling for DSA members. If we go to at least just the Michigan polling, we have
yep,
El Sayed up 10 points in a three-way and then up 11 points with McMorrow out. Now, I'm a
yep,
little bit nervous about the sample sizes of some of these things, but
yep,
914 is actually bigger than some of the other ones where El Sayed got 16 points above Stevens in a Tolkien research poll. That was only 500 likely voters. Then
right.
he got up 13 points in a Data for Progress, which with 614 likely voters. These are just pretty unflappable numbers here, and these all
They
came
are.
in July 10th to 14th, July 13th to 15th, July 26th to 27th. And Stevens has one recent poll from Glenn Gariff Group. Again, 500 likely voters. Stevens up 7 points. Hard to like. I mean, if you're going to pick a batch of data, you're probably going to pick more polls than less polls in terms of recency.
Well, right.
So
And speaking of recency, you also have an economist YouGov poll talking about more than half of Americans want to see Netanyahu uh, arrested. And who was in the United States yesterday speaking to President Trump? And who gave Stevens' campaign $30 million?
wow,
So
that could be a useful boost.
it could be a useful boost for El Said. I mean, the polling numbers, as you said, small batches, but consistent, and a dislike for Israel at the moment building. I think that could be very difficult for Stevens, and I think we've seen that in her polling. To be honest, or not polling, in her market rating. Said was up this morning. I think it was he jumped from 74 cents to 80 cents in the last hour,
Yeah,
as
it's
Stevens is
it's been
falling away.
moving right
Yep,
now as we're recording.
yep,
Stevens was at 25, then I just saw her at 18. Now she's at
yep,
22. So
yep,
the market is reacting to that most recent tavern research that was added today. I think
yep,
people are really trying to price things in. I think the traders are headed towards the right direction. I think 1 in 5 for Haley Stevens is a little bit more accurate than 1 in 4 based on those
right.
polls. But these are just again unflappable, really, really good numbers for El Sayed, and same with Francesca Hong, by the way, the candidate for governor, uh, the candidate for the Democratic nomination in Wisconsin. Hong is up 29 points in a poll with over 1,000 likely voters by State Navigate, posted yesterday. So DSA, again, success in the tried and true proven New York and then Colorado. And then you have now potentially success in Michigan, potentially success in Wisconsin. We talked about AOC last week. We now have seeds kind of everywhere. I'm
Hmm.
curious to see, I don't think a DSA member is going to succeed in like a tried and true red state, and that's why James Talarico is another one to watch. We talked about a really big poll for Talarico, had him up 5 points against Ken Paxton, and in the same round of polling, you had Hinojosa down only 3 points to Governor Abbott. So Democrats really surging in Texas polling. I mean, the
Yep,
fact that Hinojosa, who should lose very handily to Governor Abbott, is even making things close in certain polls is really impressive. I sent you
yep.
the stat that Beto O'Rourke only got to above like winning a couple polls by 2 points,
By
I think it
2 points.
was,
Yeah, it was only, but it was
and
only in
then
two polls. It was only in two polls that he was actually ahead of Cruz back, what, 2018, 2016.
right,
Yeah,
right. So this is a consistent W for Talarico across the board. I mean, if you look at all the polling here, Talarico just impressive across the board. And if we do go to the actual right polling page here, we got Talarico again up 5 in that Slingshot Strategies poll. Over 1,000 likely voters from July 15th, July 17th. Then we had a late June poll, A2 Insights, 618 likely voters, Talarico up 2. A New York Times, Siena University had it even. So all really impressive numbers for Talarico, and now we're seeing the DSA take over many states. If this is a 2018 wave, can this carry Talarico over the finish line and leave Beto in the dust? Poor Beto.
I mean, I think so. I mean, well, I saw some interesting comments about this Texas Tribune poll on Twitter, and people talking about, well, when push comes to shove, I mean, you know, in November things will be different than when things we're talking about polling in July in the heat
Mm-hmm.
dead of summer where you've got no skin in the game. You
Yeah.
know, is Talarico a better candidate than Beto back then? Yes.
Yes.
And probably Beto was, he was a good character, a good person, good campaigner.
Yeah.
But again, compare that to he was facing Cruz, who was unpopular, but not unpopular in the way that Ken Paxton is. Ken
And he
Paxton,
wasn't unpopular as much back then as he is maybe now in the same
perhaps,
state.
yeah.
If you think about the fleeing for Mexico, that
Yep.
hadn't happened yet back then. There weren't many things on Cruz's resume against him, besides like a Trump flip flop. Pretty much,
Right.
that was the
Right.
only thing that Beto had to go on. And Trump, again in 2018, was popular in Texas. Like so,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
wasn't the worst. I mean, Ted Cruz was generally a good candidate, I would
Yeah.
say, in that
Yeah.
2018 race.
I mean, comparatively, I mean, and then obviously things have changed over the last 8, 10 years. Just from what expectations voters have with the crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
like, so maybe Paxton, because he's got name recognition, still has a stance and will have a
yeah,
stance in November because it'll be, do I pick the Democrat or do I pick the Republican? What do I want at that moment in time? And maybe Paxton still slides through, but right now, I mean, the clear choice seems to be Talarico, just as a better candidate
yeah.
than Paxton is at the moment. Paxton isn't raising any money. They don't want to necessarily give him any money. Nobody has. And we talked about that in the newsletter relatively recently. I mean,
It's true.
he's where's my money, guys? Where's my money? You pushed me through. The Donald gave me the endorsement over Corden. So why aren't you guys backing me? And Talarico right now is bringing in the money, plenty of money, and he'll need
Oh
it
yeah, a lot.
to change votes, especially in the
Yeah, it's a big
independents,
state.
and it's a big
It's
state.
big state.
But polling in July is very different than voting in November.
Yeah, no, you're right. And what's most interesting about this Texas race and why I said we were going to talk about Michigan a lot today, but you know what? Michigan's a little bit like I don't know. The nail's kind of there. We've got El Said's clearly the favorite. He's reaching
You,
Mamdani pre-general territory where it's like in that 85 cent range, where it's kind of hard to give you any angle to that race. I don't know. There's not much to talk about there, but when you look at Texas, it is the turning point state. It's basically what the Senate will hinge on. It's the tipping point, I should say.
sure,
And if you look at the prices, I mean, we have right now Talarico at 42 cents, Paxton at 59 cents. And if you look at the Senate control, Democrats at 41 cents, Republicans at 61 cents. So these are
right,
going to track very closely. If not, they might end up being the exact same prices. So just a reminder, if you're looking to get in for Republicans, go buy Paxton and save a cent or two, just to
right.
be clear, because again, they're just going to correlate so heavily. And I'm interested to see if Talarico does surge up. And I think eventually the price will probably get closer to 50-50. If we're judging by the poll numbers, I don't think polling will get all that much better for Paxton. I think this is one that you'll kind of have to see on election day.
Yep.
Will favor Paxton more. So if polling's going to swing more for Talarico as we get closer to the general, riding Talarico up to a 50-50 spot and then getting out there, it's a small win, but I think that could be interesting. And it's going to be the same in the Senate control section there as well.
Right. I agree. I want to make a small comment. I think we might be wary or split the North and the South here.
Okay.
I think the DSA thing, as we've touched on a little bit earlier, I mean, just some of the comments that came out of that interview. I mean, in a lightning round saying, do you want to get rid of the Senate? Yes. Do you want to get rid of the presidency as you know it? Yes. Do you want to abolish ICE? Yes. And there's a poll coming out of Michigan that basically says El Said trails what's his name, Mike Rogers, who's the presumptive Republican
Right.
nominee. He's 99 cents in our market,
Yep.
not running against anybody. And El Said is 10 points behind him. So Stevens has been running on this electability call of, hey, I've already been elected to Congress, and here you've
Hmm.
got this insurgent, if you will, politically.
Hmm.
And, Stevens is probably a better choice in November. And then
Yeah.
you've got the same question about electability in Maine, with Kamala Harris coming out for Troy Jackson now, backing an early back there. But
Mhm.
Collins has been through everything, Susan Collins. So I wonder, especially in Michigan, if we might need to separate this conversation about the DSA and the establishment Democrats, where Talarico is more of establishment and he's going to give a run for the money for Paxton in Texas. But what happens if El Said becomes the face?
Right.
And the Republicans are already, they've already run ads, you know, straight to the base. Here's the ad. Kamala Harris is for they them. President Trump is for you. I
Yep.
mean, and that hits for the base. And so we know, like especially in Texas, that what will the turnout be? I mean, will we be talking about a shutdown? Will we be talking about Iran? Will we be talking about high gas prices? Will the
Yep.
Republicans come out and vote? We know that the Democrats have been jazzed up, but will they show up, and how will that impact? Especially if we're talking about a rift in the party.
Yeah. If we look at the potential head-to-heads in the general in Michigan, Glenn Garrett Group did have a poll, 600 likely voters on both sides. Stevens was up 1 point against Rogers if she would
Yep.
win, and El Said was down 10 points
Yep.
against Rogers if he would win. And then we see another Data for Progress poll that was taken about a month earlier, actually even more than a month earlier, by the Working Families Party. So just keep in mind that
Yep.
Working Families Party is typically a very progressive party.
Yep.
It said El Said was up a point and Haley Stevens was down a point to Rogers. So some conflicting polling on those hypothetical head-to-heads. I don't love a hypothetical head-to-head.
Right.
You really can't judge things until they're next to each other and
Yep.
they're going
And
at each other.
yep.
So while you're right to caution on the DSA takeover, I think it's probably, again, close to 50-50. If you have a crazy blue wave, that's going to sweep up more than Michigan. I mean, that's
Right.
definitely going to sweep up Michigan, Wisconsin. If you're getting Texas, but you're
Right.
definitely right about Texas in that I think a lot more Republicans are going to stay home in Texas because
Hmm.
they're John Cornyn voters, because
Right.
they don't love the candidate they have to vote for.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a little bit less motivated because of Iran, because of a potential government shutdown. Whereas I think Republicans in Michigan can maybe rally together a little bit more, and I would
Right.
be surprised. I would expect to see the turnout better in Michigan for sure.
Yeah.
But these head-to-heads make it hard to parse when you get that big of a number against El Said. So we'll,
Yeah.
we'll have to see. I'm sure a lot of money will flow his way in terms of big donors after he actually wins versus what he has to go on, which is small dollar donations right now, which is the classic kind of DSA model.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if Haley Stevens is interested in stumping for El Said. I don't expect it in these tight, feisty races, but you always think. So, what was this person looking for out of everything? Were they looking for personal power? Were they looking
Right.
for the best candidate for the Democratic nomination and a Democratic win? We saw the craziness between Crockett and Talarico. Crockett has
Yep.
really been anti-Talarico. So if we read the tea leaves and Stevens, I don't know if she's going to
I
soften a
don't.
little bit, but
How can you take that much APAC money and then soften? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I just don't see that coming. That's oil and water to me.
Right. That's the wedge issue.
Yeah.
Which is funny because there wasn't really a wedge issue for Talarico and Crockett. There wasn't
No.
anything that was like, well, they're not going to agree on X. If you watch their debates and you line up their views,
Yeah.
you
There
can pretty
wasn't.
much just take the names off and swap them around, and you won't know which one has the
I think
policy
I think
positions.
more of the Crockett issue is more personality
Right.
and her brand that she's built.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it doesn't make any sense to then all of a sudden start hugging your opponent.
Well, that's
It's
kind of why I say maybe Stevens will soften because that actually does seem like the persona of like
right,
Michigan's gonna go get it. Like Democrats in Michigan, let's go take
right.
up the. Who
The
cares that
more
he's a
wholesome
DSA
view.
member? Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's become an internet darling. I actually I have another Stevens video for you.
Oh,
Are
you
you
do?
ready? I come prepared. I just have to
Yes.
give you another Stevens video. So,
Love it.
all right.
Okay, some of you have seen, there's those cool kids on the internet. They're doing the cool kid chatter. Some of them might be the coastal elites making fun of how I talk. Not okay. But let's be real. They're making fun of Michigan. They're thinking they're better than us. And what they don't know is I am your voice. And their jokes and their criticism only makes me fight harder.
She's very good.
Yeah. I
She's
have to
very good.
say, she took that well and
Oh
she
yeah.
turned it well and she pivoted and she leaned into it. And I think that's a good how-to video right there to
Yeah.
take something that is being mocked or made fun of and
And with Jim Clyburn behind you,
exactly.
and I don't know where they are, but she's depending on a really good turnout in Detroit. This is
Yeah.
definitely like that's why it's funny before I see the recent polling, and this is why I don't live on the internet, kids, but like Haley Stevens feels like a slight moment right now. Now the DSA is also having their own moments, so that's why
Sure.
like competing
They're
moments here.
parallels. They're
They're
parallels.
yeah, right. Completely different worlds. I mean, this is what we live
Yeah.
in today. Like
I mean,
your Idaho is going to be completely different from mine, right?
it's interesting. You mentioned the Glenn Gariff group poll. I mean, but
Yeah,
Stevens is up 31 points over with black voters against El Said.
right.
31 points. So yeah, if she can get that turnout in Detroit,
You,
maybe.
the other insight I have as the husband of a wife who went to Michigan, I
Hmm.
know that Michigan, University of Michigan, they start late, so they don't kids don't come back until late August, early September.
Yep.
So I'm just putting it out there that Ann Arbor vote isn't necessarily all there for El Sayed, like you would expect it to be, right?
Right. Right.
So it's one of those things where it's like if he needs every vote he can get, and he doesn't have the maybe extra 30K votes in Ann
Hmm.
Arbor that he needs,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
That's an interesting point. I just bought myself an Indiana Hoosiers hat while I was in Indiana. So thought about putting that on to match my shirt, but I went with the PredictIt hat instead.
It would have been too much red. It would have been
Too
too
much
much
red?
red. Your
Yeah.
shirt, your nose, your hat. It would have been
I
a little
know.
too
It would have been a
much.
trifecta. What an opportunity missed.
No, I know. You're right. You're right. Anything else you got for us today, Garth? I think I'm all set here. I think we went through everything perfectly.
No, I think we're good. It's going to be kind of an interesting week. It's supposed to be a sleepy week, but
It's a Sleepy Joe week for sure.
it's a sleepy Joe week. But we've had some polls that have stirred up the conversations, and we do have Michigan next Tuesday. So that's what I'm looking
Michigan
forward
next
to.
Tuesday. I'm really excited. I'm excited to break it down with you. What's better than the day after the socialist wins, right? I mean, we've had many moments like that recently. So
We have.
let's look forward to it. Thanks for listening along with us on the PredictIt podcast. Jacob Studwell, Garth Yuckham. We're everywhere. The PredictIt pod. I don't know if you know, but we're literally everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Podcasts. If you got it, just say the A word. I can't say it because she's gonna ding, and ask for us. I don't know. Maybe we'll come up. Deezer, youtube.com/@PredictItOfficial, x.com/@PredictItPod. Thanks for listening and enjoy your sleepy week before we got Michigan Tuesday. Rile up, and all you Michigan voters, go out there and vote. Thanks for listening, everybody.